Right, this is part 2 of properties of exponents. In the previous video, you should watch, if you haven't, the previous video talks about the product rule. Now we're going to look at the quotient rule for exponents, quotient rule for exponents. Now the quotient rule, before you do that, you need to know what a quotient is. A quotient is nothing more than what happens when you divide two things. If you divide one number by another number, the result is a quotient. So here we have a quotient, which is 4 to the 5th divided by 4 to the 3rd power. Now I don't know how to simplify this, but what I do know is 4 to the 5th power is really 4 times itself 5 times, and 4 cubed is 4 times 4 times 4. Then I remember some properties that for order of operations, which say that you can divide and multiply in any order you see fit. So here I see 4 divided by 4, 4 divided by 4, 4 divided by 4. Every time I do that, I get a 1. So those things all divide out to 1, and I'm left with just 2 4s that have not had anything in the bottom to divide out with, which ends up with just 4 squared. So 4 to the 5th over 4 cubed can simplify to just 4 squared, or 16. 3 to the 7th over 3 squared is really just 3 to the 5th, because there are 7 3's on the top, 2 factors of 3's on the bottom. The 2 factors of 3's divide with the 2 factors of 3's to get 1's, leaving us with the remaining 5 3's that haven't been multiplied. So 3 to the 5th, or 243, is the same as taking 3 to the 7th divided by 3 squared. X to the 8th over x to the 5th, even if I don't know what x is, I know there's 8 factors of those on the top, 5 factors on the bottom. Each factor that's in common divides out, and I have 3 leftovers, so x to the 8th over x to the 5th is equal to x cubed. Now to generalize, and this is where the homework comes into play. When you get to class, I'm going to ask you what a to the m over a to the n is equal to in simplest possible terms. Your job will be to tell me a to what power am I going to have. The next rule is power of a product. So first of all, we remind ourselves that the product is what happens when you multiply things. So when 3 times x is a product, and I'm taking the 3 times x to the 4th power. So really I'm asking for 3 times x times 3 times x times 3 times x times 3 times x. Luckily for me, I can multiply in any order I see fit, so I'm going to multiply all the 3's and all the x's. And instead of writing it all out like that, I'm going to use my shorthand notation. There's 4 sets of 3 and 4 sets of x, and so we end up with this conclusion. If we have 3x to the 4th, it's the same as taking 3 to the 4th times x to the 4th. Here's 4y to the 5th. That means there's 5 sets of 4y. Rearrange them and combine. There's 5 sets of 4, 5 sets of y. So if I take 4y to the 5th power, it's the same as taking 4 to the 5th times y to the 5th. Your job now is to generalize. If I have a times b to the m power, what is that equivalent to? And it's according to the power of a product shortcut that I've observed here. You could probably guess what's coming next. I've done power of a product. Now I'm probably going to do power of a, that's right, power of a quotient. Quotient is what happens when you divide. So if you take 2/3 to the 4th, it's really multiplying 2/3 by itself 4 times. When you multiply fractions, God said you can multiply the numerators and the denominators separately. So there's 4 sets of 2 and 4 sets of 3. So that can be shorthanded using exponents, 2 to the 4th over 3 to the 4th. Here there are 3 sets of x over 7, which I can write out as 3 sets of x over 7. I can multiply the numerators and the denominators separately and use shorthand to shorten this out. So power of a quotient. What's the shortcut? Rather, what is the rule? If I take any fraction to a power, how can I simplify or express that in an equivalent form? Lastly, we have the power of a power. So power of a power is basically when you take 5 cubed and then you square it, or you take a number to a power and then take that to another power. It's important to recognize here that we shouldn't just dive right into looking at the shortcut. Rather, we should expand and see that 5 cubed squared is 5 cubed times 5 cubed. Then I could use that product rule from the last video, which says add the exponents, so it's 5 to the 3 plus 3, which is really 2 sets of 3, or 6, 5 to the 6th power. So really you could look at it this way, there's 3 sets of 5 times 3 sets of 5 for a total of 6 sets of 5. Here we have 8 to the 4th to the 5th power, which means we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of 8 to the 4th, which is really 8 to the 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, which I have 5 of those. So instead of writing all those 4's out, I could just write 5 times 4, which is 8 to the 20th power. So 8 to the 4 times 5 is 8 to the 20th power. And x cubed to the 4th is 4 sets of x cubed, which is really x to the x to the 12th. I don't know why I wrote 3 there. I guess I got to fix that. Alright. That was weird. One of those mistakes. Alright, it should fix itself now. There we go. Alright, and what that does is it leads us to our final, what do we need to know? And this is the shorthand version, or the generalized version of the power of a power. So, what would we do if we had a to the m to the n power? That's the question. To summarize the questions, we have the product rule, which we learned previously. Now we have the quotient rule. You need to figure out what that is. Power of a product. You need to figure out what that is. Power of a quotient. You need to figure out what that is. Power of a power. Figure out what that is. And be reminded, there's 0 exponents from the previous chapter, and negative exponents, which a to the negative 1 equals 1 over a to the negative m equals 1 over a to the positive m. These rules should all be a part of our DNA as well. So here's what's going to happen when you get to class. You're going to show up to class. I'm going to start you off right away with a quiz. The quiz is going to look generally like this. I'll have the name of the rules written out, all of everything you see on this page, and the only thing you'll have to do is write down the rule in shorthand form. So once you do that, hand it in, and we'll start class. So have a good day.